Our second scripture reading for today comes from the Psalms. I cannot believe we are halfway through this summer psalm series. Say that 3 times quickly. I can't believe we're halfway through it already. And I'll be honest with you, when I was looking ahead and planning for worship, I kind of thought, it'll be okay. I hope y'all are getting something out of it, because this has been my favorite series I've ever preached, period. So, I'm loving it, and I really especially love the music that goes along with it. So, again, I'm going to plug that YouTube channel that we have. There's a summer playlist. It's got all these, it's got the popular songs, and I even threw in some extras in there just for fun. We have Amazing Grace the normal way, and then we have the Blind Boys of Alabama singing it to House of the Rising Sun. Thank you. So today, Psalm 40. It's for the director of music of David, a psalm. I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet upon a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. He put a new song in my mouth, a hymn of praise to our God. Many will see and fear the Lord and put their trust in him. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, who does not look to the proud, to those who turn aside to false gods. Many, Lord my God, are the wonders you have done, the things you planned for us. None can compare with you. Were I to speak and tell of your deeds, they would be too many to declare. Sacrifice and offering you did not desire, but my ears you have opened. Burnt offerings and sin offerings you did not require. Then I said, here I am. I have come. It is written about me in the scroll. I desire to do your will, my God. Your law is within my heart. I proclaim your saving acts in the great assembly. I do not seal my lips, Lord, as you know. I do not hide your righteousness in my heart. I speak of your faithfulness and your saving help. I do not conceal your love and your faithfulness from the great assembly. Do not withhold your mercy from me, Lord. May your love and faithfulness always protect me. For troubles without number surround me. My sins have overtaken me, and I cannot see. They are more than the hairs on my head, and my heart fails within me. Be pleased to save me, Lord. Come quickly, Lord, to help me. May all who want to take my life be put to shame and confusion. May all who desire my ruin be turned back in disgrace. May those who say to me, aha, aha, be appalled at their own shame. May all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. May those who long for your saving help always say, the Lord is great. But as for me, I am poor and needy. May the Lord think of me. You are my help and my deliverer. You are my God. Do not delay. This is the word of God for us, the people of God. Thanks be to God. Alan loves to share articles with me. I don't know if y'all have that kind of marriage, but ours is basically sitting around for at least 30 minutes to an hour with coffee, reading next to each other, but finding what we're reading so much more interesting than what the other is reading. So we're constantly interrupting each other's flow and sharing articles. And this article still haunts me. He said, children these days are taught water confidence and not water competence. And it's leading to far too many drowning incidents, he read. The article detailed the difference between, and I know you've seen it, where they just toss the babies into the water and let them figure it out and float around. And I see a hand back there. Were you the baby or were you the tosser?
I was the baby.
You were the baby. All right. Did it work?
Yes, it did.
It had to. You're still here. But, so there's a difference between that kind of training and then the sliding the water wings on or putting on the life jackets on the kids and letting them paddle around while they're learning to swim. He read that kids are not learning competency, and it is costing lives. I can assure you that no matter how many of those videos I saw of babies that were just a few weeks old or months old bobbing around in the water, when my kids were little, y'all, they were covered up in all those floaties. They had the water wings, they had the life jackets, and that almost ended up badly for my family. We were anchored about probably 30, 40 feet from the shore in Lake Lanier, and one of my kids stepped off the back of the boat with no life jacket on. The youngest, of course. He was always trying to find a way to die. We had taken off his, before you think I'm a horrible parent, we had taken his life jacket off because we had set anchor, and this child is the fairest of them all. I mean, this child sunburns inside. So we had taken it off to reapply his sunscreen. And he was letting it dry very wisely before we were going to put his life jacket on and get him back in the water. But Alan and the other two went ahead and started swimming around behind the boat. And I turned around for half a second to do something, and as I swung back toward the back of the boat, there he was, stepping off the back of the boat, and I watched him go under in 30 to 40 feet of water. Now, he popped back up. It happened so fast, y'all. I will never forget that horrifying, time-dilated feeling of watching him go under. Thank God, Alan was about a foot away, and he grabbed him almost immediately. Thank God. Austin was somewhat competent by that point, too, and he knew to kick back up. Thank God we got our happy ending that day. For the rest of our years on the water with kids, and there were many good ones, we anchored closer to shore on a regular basis. We would rather scratch up the bottom of the boat and see the bottom of the lake than risk that again. As long as our feet were planted, we felt like there was some kind of control over the situation, and I love control. I know that is a shock to all of you. I am not a fan of treading water in the deep, not physically, not emotionally, not spiritually, not any kind of way. I don't like wondering if I'm going to find footing. It gives me a little bit of PTSD. That nightmare came flooding back as I read this psalm for our playlist, because this is a psalm really about sinking, about rescue, about happy endings, past, present, and future. But this song stands out to me because, and it belongs on our playlist in my mind, because for all its positivity and confidence, this song is sung from the terrible, terrifying deep. This is a song about waiting for God when our confidence in our own competence is shaken. Unfortunately, I think we can all relate to the feeling of being in over our heads. The feeling of thinking we're walking into this day on solid ground and sinking in the mud about 2 steps out the door. Maybe it's a diagnosis that comes out of nowhere, a death, a relationship falling apart, a family member, a friend you can't help, a financial crisis, you name it, a future you can't control, a prayer that doesn't seem like it's going to get answered. And maybe your list has multiple ones of that all in 1 week. I'm not talking about things that just hurt. I'm talking about something much deeper than that. I'm talking about things we can't fix. That's where Psalm 40 begins, doesn't it? I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry. Then comes this visceral imagery. David was so good at that. He drew me up from the desolate pit, out of the miry bog. I don't care what translation you have, it translates the same way, and you can see it and you can feel it. Have you ever stepped in a miry bog? Has everybody done that before? We've almost forgotten what mud feels like at our house this summer. It's been so dry. David isn't just talking about mud like mud where you get no traction. He's talking about mud so deep that you can't plant your feet. As a matter of fact, Your feet might just get planted a lot deeper than you want them to be. After Hurricane Helene came through in the mountains of North Carolina, Alan and I hiked to our family's house up in Bat Cave, and I stepped in mud like that. One foot sank all the way to the knee, and like the brilliant, I really feel like I'm halfway intelligent, but y'all, my solution to one foot being that far knee deep in the mud was to stick my other foot in and try to pull the first one out, and you know what happened there. It didn't go well. Suddenly, both feet were stuck, and there I am starting to panic. And the more I panicked, the deeper I sank. Like Scott, you probably know that the story ended okay. I got out. A miry bog gives you no traction at all. You can't plant your feet on solid ground and push yourself out. The harder you struggle, the more exhausted you become, and that goes for literal mud and for spiritual and emotional miry bogs as well. Our instinct is to thrash, to fix it, to control it, to worry it to death, to find the right answer, to make a better plan, to get ourselves out. So we research, we rehearse, we rehash, we rethink. And sometimes after all that, there simply is not a move available to us. In the chess game of life, our king is toast. Checkmate. But God. God isn't out of moves just because we are. Back to our psalm. That's what David was trying to say. David, who is all out of moves and completely out of options to save himself, doesn't escape by figuring it all out or thrashing about. What action does David take? What is his action in this psalm? You see it right at the beginning. What is his action? Called on the Lord. And you know what else he did? He waited patiently while sinking. He waited patiently while sinking. Does that not just make you uncomfortable? It made me uncomfortable just thinking about it. Do you feel the mud sucking you in while you hear those words? The water rising, the helplessness, the hopeless situation overwhelming him? Can you put yourself in his place without wanting to panic? And he waited patiently, which feels a little bit like giving up to people like me. When what we're facing threatens us, threatens our life, our emotional well-being, our ability to trust in God, and we just wait patiently for rescue, doesn't it feel a little bit like giving up? But David wants everyone who has ears to hear this. It isn't giving up. Waiting is trusting in God, even when we can't see for the life of us what God is up to at the moment. And that, my friends, might just be the hardest day's work you've ever put in. I do want to pause and say this. Waiting on God does not mean refusing help when you are in a dangerous situation. If there is a way out, God is not saying stay stuck. Biblical waiting is not passivity. It is recognizing that there will be times that we face things that no amount of striving can ultimately control. In those times, like it or not, we have to wait. David waited. He didn't just wait. In verse 1, we see it, and it's even clearer if you see it in the Hebrew. We read, I waited patiently, but the Hebrew reads more like this. Waiting, I waited. Patiently is, I think, a great way to translate that. But we miss the repetition that really deepens that thought. This is persistent, expectant, waiting. Not quietly sitting. David isn't passive. He is actively depending on God to do something, and God does. Notice the verbs that come next. God inclined. God heard. God drew me up. God set my feet. God made my steps secure. Grace reaches down so much farther than we could ever climb up. Grace works while we wait. And when we have experienced this saving Amazing Grace, we can't help but sing about it. And that's exactly what he does. He says, God put a new song in my mouth. And that's where our New Testament reading from Acts caught my attention today. That's where I started thinking about another song that was sung from the deep. This pit in Acts looks a little different, but to Paul and Silas, it probably felt very much the same. They probably felt the mud, the miry bog. We meet Paul and Silas in a prison in Philippi. They've been stripped, beaten, flogged, thrown into a cell, placed in stocks. They can't touch bottom there. They have zero control, no leverage, no apparent escape. And then comes one of the most memorable sentences in the whole book of Acts. And if you've studied Acts, you know that's saying something. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. They're singing. Does that give you like Who's in Whoville on Christmas morning kind of vibes? It does me. I mean, what do they have to sing about? What's good about this? I mean, we know what's coming if we've read the story. We're thinking, well, God's about to shake that prison and they're about to be set free. But Paul and Silas aren't singing because they know what happens in verse 26. They're singing in verse 25. The song comes before the earthquake, before the doors open, before the chains fall off, before they know how the story's going to end. They are singing a song from the deep end. We hear this, and suddenly Psalm 40 gets maybe a little bit more interesting, more powerful, more important as an addition to our playlist. Because if we stop after verse 3, Psalm 40 sounds like a clean, clear testimony. I was in trouble. I prayed. God rescued me. Now I'm singing. But we can't stop there. It's a long psalm, and I read the whole thing. By the end of the psalm, we know this. We know David's trouble has returned. He says, "Do not, O Lord, withhold your mercy from me, for evils have encompassed me. Be pleased, O Lord, to deliver me. Do not delay, oh my God." Which I love that. The probably better translation is, "Don't be late, God." How many times have we said that? Hey, God, show up and please don't be late. But hold on a second. I thought God had already rescued David. We know he did. But now David needs rescuing all over again. And that's the point. That's the song. That's life. We get it. Psalm 40 isn't the testimony of someone who escaped the deep end and spent the rest of his life with his feet planted firmly on solid ground or in the shallow water, on dry land. He is remembering the last rescue while he waits for the next one. That's where this song comes from. Paul and Silas don't know what God is about to do, but they know what God has already done. David doesn't know when his present troubles are going to end, but he remembers God heard me before and met me before and held me before. He gave me footing before, and I am counting on God to do it again. You know, sometimes that's enough to get us through midnight or the next breath or the next step, the next hour of waiting. Y'all, we don't need another song that says, everything is going to be okay, everything is fine. We need a song that says, God is still God, even now. We don't need a song that says, I know what's coming next. We need a song that says, I know who has been faithful to me before. Now, I have to say another thing out loud. We all know it. Not every midnight, not every jail stint gets an earthquake that breaks all the chains. Paul and Silas pray and sing. The earth shakes, the doors open, the chains fall, and we want to turn that into a nice, neat formula, don't we? Trust God hard enough, sing loud enough, pray faithfully enough, and eventually you'll get your earthquake. But we know better. Sometimes we do, but sometimes the cancer keeps spreading. Sometimes the marriage ends. Sometimes the prayer we've prayed for many years goes unanswered. Sometimes the morning comes and we are still in prison. So what does our faith have to say then? Paul Simon's song, Bridge Over Troubled Water, begins with someone who is weary, feeling small, someone whose eyes are filled with tears. And then comes this promise that is at the heart of this song: I will lay me down. Not, I will make the troubled water disappear. Not, I'll tell you why you're in it. Not even, I'll get you out of it. I'll be the bridge. Troubled water might be calmed. The wind and the waves might be stilled with a word from God. But troubled waters might just stay troubled for a while. But even then, God is moving, singing over us through it all, singing peace and hope and solid ground, offering a bridge. A bridge doesn't calm the water. It doesn't explain why the water's troubled. It simply gives us a way through, a way across. Sometimes God stills the water. Sometimes God pulls us out of the water. And sometimes God carries us across what he does not calm. You know, in the middle of this psalm, David gives us his reason for sharing this song. Sure, it's a song about rescue and a hope for another rescue, but why? Why does he sing this new song even when old familiar troubles come and go? Well, look at verse 3 and you'll see it. He sings because when he does, many will see and fear and put their trust in the Lord. He's not talking about fear as in many are going to be afraid of the deep that he's facing, or even many will be afraid of God. He's saying people will fear the Lord when they hear what he's been through and what he's going to get through. This kind of fear is more like an awe at the absolute, sheer, amazing power of God in the face of things that we are absolutely powerless against. He's singing. Why? He's singing so that when we find ourselves in the deep end, his memory can strengthen ours. God is so good to send people to sing over us, to sing with us, to sing for us of all the gifts that God has given us. By his grace, I think the church might be one of the very best of all of them. Because when I can't sing, you sing. When you can't pray, I'll pray. When we can't remember that God is faithful, we got somebody out there that's going to remember God's faithfulness for us. Our witness to one another, our new song is so powerful. We are at our best, our very best, when we remember our job is not to explain why somebody is in the deep end. It's to make sure that they're not out there alone and that they know it. Acts 16 has this amazing song, the earthquake and the broken chains. But maybe the most amazing plot twist of all is that when the prison doors open, Paul and Silas don't run. They stay right where they are. The jailer sees the doors and assumes that everyone has escaped through those open doors, and he decides to make a very permanent choice to a very temporary problem. Suddenly, this jailer is the one that's in the deep end, but Paul reaches out and saves him. Do not harm yourself, he says. We're all here. They weren't just singing empty songs in the dark and in the deep. Their faith didn't just give them confidence. Over time, it had given them something more. It had given them spiritual competency. They knew how to recognize someone else who was drowning, and they were able to help lift this man and his whole family out. The ones who needed deliverance became instruments of deliverance. The people who were drowning became, metaphorically, a bridge for someone else. And so the song goes on, person to person, community to community, generation to generation. And now this song is yours. David sings, I remember the God who pulled me out before. Paul and Silas sing, I can praise you even before I know how this ends. And Bridge Over Troubled Water gives us this powerful reminder that until you reach solid ground, you do not cross this water alone. There will be places in life where you can't touch bottom, places where you can't fix it, places where you can't control it, can't see a way out. And sometimes God will shake the prison. Sometimes God will reach down and pull you from the pit and set your feet upon a rock, but sometimes that water is just going to remain troubled for a while. And in those times, those dark nights, that deep water, I want you to remember this song. Remember the God who has held you before, the God who has been the bridge that has made a way. David says, "Many are my troubles, but many are your wonders, O Lord." Claim it. And so with confidence hard-earned, we can sing praise even from the deep, trusting that God is with us and testifying that even there we are not beyond the wonders of God's amazing grace. Amen.